Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Elevate with Alicia, where I talk everything personal and career success the biblical way. And if you are new to my channel, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe so that you do not miss any of my videos. Now go ahead right now. Yeah, just do it now. Just subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you. Now, just a little bit about Alicia. I am an author and I am also a transformational speaker and coach. And I'm also into sales and customer service training and coaching. Now, in this video, I'll be talking about something that happens to all of us. It happens to everybody at some point in time, and it's called failure. I want to talk about coping mechanisms for failure. And coping with failure is a fundamental aspect of personal growth and success. And this is what this channel is about. I really want to share practical tips and nuggets and strategies as to how we really can be elevated to that next level so that we can manifest our God-given purpose. So don't go anywhere. No, guys, like I said, failure is something that happens to all of us. We have all experienced it at some point in time. Have you ever failed at something and you have thrown in the towel and you feel like you've said to yourself, look, this is it. I am not even going to attempt this anymore, because I have failed at this thing and I've went so hard at it. And here I am in this state. It really does affect your mindset. And failure is really the condition of not meeting a goal or an intended outcome. We all have been there. But let's face it, we have all made mistakes. And we know that failure is really a reality of life. And it actually helps us to grow. And we can think of many persons, both past and present, that have routinely experienced colossal failure. So we really do fail at some point. We fear it, we dread it, and when it does happen, we really hold on to it. It's a mindset thing. And so I really want us to look at today how we can really pass this thing called failure. The fact of the matter is that we give it power over our emotions, and sometimes we allow it to dictate our way forward. Some of us have gone to great lengths to avoid failure, because some of us has given up on our goals because we've failed in the pursuit of it. You probably have gone to try to get your house. You've attempted to write a book. You have attempted to get the promotion. You have attempted to start your own business and you failed at it. But I want to say to you that failure does happen. The Word of God says that with Him, we really can accomplish everything. We can do anything. Nothing is impossible with Him. And so when you really go after those dreams and those goals and those desires with so much confidence and you really fail at it, the key thing to remember is that God will allow us to fail so that we can get to a closer and to a deeper place with Him. God will allow us to fail so that we can get to that place where we can acknowledge that He is our source, He is our strength, and we really cannot do anything without Him. So why is it so really hard for us to let go and forgive ourselves and to move on when failure really does happen? And how can we keep failure or the fear of it from derailing us? There are some key things that we must remember. We must separate failure from our identity. Remember that a setback or a failure isn't a reflection of who you are as an individual. And sometimes we really do look at ourselves as failure, and we have to separate that from who we are in God. By understanding that failure is just about the process and not about our identity. It is about the process and not our identity. And so you can maintain confidence to continue pursuing that goal, because essentially we have to embrace failure as a teacher. Yes, we have to understand that failure is a natural part of life and an opportunity for us to really experience growth. How many persons have you heard of in the past? I mean, these real wealthy people, at the end of the day, they really would have gone through so much. There is a television program here in Jamaica that I love to listen to. It's called Profile. And it really speaks to those persons who would have had significant success in their lives. And at the end of the day, when you sit and listen to some of the struggles that they would have gone through, you can understand that in order for you to be successful in this life, you have to understand what it is like to go through struggles. You have to understand what it is like to go through failure. But it really brings out a different type of fire and determination and relentlessness that is necessary to really navigate life. Because at the end of the day, life is about seasons. And every season that you meet upon, you will realize that is some mountain to climb and there is some struggle that you have to go through. So you have to consider failure as a valuable teacher that really gives us the insight that we need to gain success. Because at the end of the day, the failure that we would have experienced is really that which builds our muscles. It builds spiritual muscle. It builds physical muscle. It builds mental muscle. And so when you would have gone through those failures, it allows you now to sit in a place of solitude. And I love solitude. You will hear me talking about solitude at all times in these videos because solitude is really that place that you would have gone to get clarity. I remember for me, I failed my exam, that transitionary exam from primary school to going to high school. And I remember sitting there while they were calling out the names of the persons that passed for the different respective schools that they wanted to get into. And I sat there and I listened and I listened. And I looked around and I saw persons celebrating. They were celebrating to have gotten into the school that they wanted to get into. And as I listened and I listened, I did not hear my name. And guys, I can tell you, I experienced deep down what deep failure felt like. Because at the end of the day, I don't think it's a case where I was not prepared. I think it's more a case where I was just nervous. And so that failure really propelled me to do so well in high school. I went through high school being a straight A student because I remember what that failure felt like. And I said to myself, I really do not want to experience that. So as I go further, I'm going to talk about the different perspective that we must have as it is when we really go through life and experience that failure. We have to learn from the mistakes. Analyze what really went wrong. And that's another critical point when it comes on to coping with failure. If you failed at something, whatever it is in this life, we have to identify what it is that really brought about that failure. Identify the areas where you can improve. And so it's so important for us to have what I call a growth mindset. We hear all the time about persons talking about a fixed mindset as opposed to a growth mindset. And so in order for us to really be successful in this life, we have to have a growth mindset and look at situations for what it is. Okay, so I failed at this thing. What am I going to do to bounce back, so to speak? What am I going to do to ensure that I move from this season of failure? Are you going to use failure for self-reflection and self-awareness? Are you going to pull yourself away, analyze the situation, dissect the situation, and then try to pull the lessons from it? You see, we will never pass that particular season in our lives that we would have failed or experienced stress or struggle unless we would have sat and analyzed what really went wrong. What decision did I make that brought me to this place? And you know, when it comes on to failure, we tend to play what I call in my first book, the victim game and the blame game. And it's very easy for us to do that because we point the finger on everybody else and we do not point the finger on ourselves. And so if you would have failed at something, then it is so important that we sit down in that place and to try to analyze the situation and pick it apart and try to understand what really brought about this failure. What did I move ahead of time? Did I not pray about the situation before? Did I move too fast? What did I do that would have contributed to this failure? And so we know everything is about mindset. And another critical aspect is how we are looking at failure. What is the perspective that you have? And so I mentioned earlier about failing that exam to go into high school, right? So essentially, I did not get to go to the high school that I wanted to. Eventually, I did, because I had done a transfer from that institution that I was going to, and I went to another institution and eventually became head girl of that school. But that's another video, that's another story. What happened with me then is that I looked at failure from a different perspective. I remember going home that day and I ran to my mother and I hugged her up and I cried like a baby, because I said to myself, I was so prepared, I was so ready. I had no idea that this would have been the outcome. And that is it. That's what happens when we go about in the pursuit of our goals. And that is why we are so traumatized sometimes when we fail, because we give it our all. And I remember giving my all to that exam, and I ended up failing that exam. But what propelled me is that I shifted my mindset. I became a straight A student during high school because I shifted my mindset. I looked at that failure from the perspective of, okay, I am not going to allow this negative outcome to dictate my way forward. And so I took the necessary steps to ensure that I was moving into a season of progress and growth. So we have to remember that many great achievements were preceded by many failures. Many great achievements that you would have looked at, persons who are successful right now, they would have failed so many times. You know, there's a book by John Maxwell. I love John Maxwell, and I'm recommending this book, Failing Forward. It says that the difference between average people and persons who really achieve is their perception of the response of failure. Because we know that failure is inevitable and it is going to happen, at the end of the day, it really boils down to the mindset that you have. At the end of the day, it really boils down to the perception. And so if you change your perspective based on the situation that you are in right now, or what you have failed at before, you would be surprised as to what would happen. And there's also a section that says most people are never prepared to deal with failure. When you passionately and persistently, and I always have that in my introduction, to passionately and persistently pursue your God-given purpose. But in that pursuit, you have to entertain the mindset, not that you're going forth with the mindset to fail, but you have to be prepared to deal with that failure. And so we have to learn how to manage our emotions around it. So if you had failed at something, the key thing to remember is that you have to have the right people around you. Atmosphere matters. You've heard that so many times. You have to surround yourself with people who believes in your potential. And so you have to surround yourself with persons who can say, boy, you know, John, Mark, Jane, whoever you may be who is watching this video, you failed at it. Fine. Acknowledge that you failed at it. But at the end of the day, you have to know, pick yourself up, position back yourself, shift your mindset, and now go forth. And so you have to have friends around you, family members around you, who can encourage you during the challenging time of failure. And if you have failed at something, move forward. So while it's important to fully process what happened and gather the takeaway, it's also important to accept it and move forward. Acceptance means you understand that you encountered an obstacle or that brief setback, and now you need to find a solution. And so in this life, you have to be solution oriented. At the end of the day, failure will happen. What solution am I going to find to this situation? So understand that the challenge and the growth and even failure almost always require us to shift our mindset so that we can get to that next season of success. So we have to keep the vision alive. It's not like we can say, okay, I fail at this thing, so I'm going to lock myself in a closet and I'm not coming out. At the end of the day, we have to keep the vision alive. So if you have failed at something, reconnect with your initial vision. Why did you even go forth to manifest it, to want to manifest it in the first place? What ignited that passion? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? You want to start your own business. You want to write a book. You want your own home. What is the why? Go back to that why and get back that fire. And then the next thing that you have to do is just visualize the success. There's so much that happens to our mindset when we visualize. There's so much that happens to our mindset when we self-affirm. And so you have to now set your determination to overcome the setback that you would have experienced. And the other thing is that you really can use failure as fuel. And so it really goes back to perspective. Let the pain of failure serve as motivation to prove yourself wrong. And so channel that disappointment, channel it into renewed determination and a stronger commitment so that you can accomplish the goal. You are in a season right now where you feel like you would have failed. You feel like a failure. And I'm saying to you, I have been in that season where I felt like a failure. But the important thing is that you must acknowledge that you failed. You must accept that you would have failed. You must surround yourself with the right people. You have to ensure that you use that failure as the stepping stone. Sit and understand and analyze and dissect why you would have gone through that season of failure. And then try now to strategize as to how you can get out of it. So if you're watching and you feel demotivated, you feel like you've lost passion, you feel like you feel like you want to abnegate, you feel stressed, you feel like you're not empowered to move from that place, I want to say, rise up, stand up, and go again. And trust God. Trust God that His word that says everything must work out for your good. You know what that means? It means that even if you fail, it's still going to work out for your good. And so, guys, I encourage us. I have gone through failure. You have gone through failure. All of us have gone through failure. But at the end of the day, we have to pass that season and get our emotions in check so that at the end of the day, we manifest that God-given goal, that God-given purpose that God has sent here to do. Purpose manifestation is non-negotiable. At the end of the day, what God has sent us here to do, it has to come to pass, no matter what. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I want you to share in the comment, what season are you in? Do you feel like you would have failed at something? How do you cope? How did you cope with that? Share in the comments so that others can be edified. How did you cope with that season? How did you pass that season? And where are you now? Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Join me in the next video where I share something empowering. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell and make sure that you like the video and share the video. I am looking forward to seeing you in that next video. Thank you, guys.